Hi everyone and welcome to this episode of Women in Retail Talks. Listen in as Lesley Jane Seymour discusses the importance of your personal brand at this year's Women in Retail Leadership Summit. And now, on to the show.
So I'm going to talk to you about the importance of your personal brand, and I'll just tell you that it all came out of a story I wrote for LinkedIn, which I'll post on the Covey Club Facebook page, which you can then go see, because it's talking about how I lost a job 10 years ago before the digital age, and it was a disaster, and then I lost a job a year ago after the digital age, and it was a whole different experience. So that's basically what this is going to be about. It's talking to you about getting your personal brand together. Let's see if I can do this. So why do you build your personal brand? And this was one of the things we did when I ran More Magazine, is we talked a lot about personal brand, and it's very hard to understand what that means. Why do I need it? You're giving me one more thing to do. I've got to go home and make breakfast for the kids, and I've got my boss breathing down my neck. Why do I have to build my personal brand? And the reason is, today, as we all know, I come out of publishing, you guys come out of retail. It is a fast-changing world, and you may be somewhere, and I can't tell you how many times I go around to different places and talk about reinvention, always having a reinvention idea in your back pocket. I will talk to bankers, lawyers, and they're like, don't worry, our area is so secure. We've been here 22 years, 25 years, everything's great. And I stand there and I go, no, you've got to be prepared. Your personal brand is going to be what takes you to your next place, whatever that might be. I leave, and 2 weeks later, I find out that the bank they were at was bought and sold to something in Canada. They all had to leave. Now they have to figure out what to do. It's not that anything is in your control. It's that it's out of your control. So the personal brand you want to build is so you can tell people what you stand for and to give you clarity on what your key contributions are. It will also bring you new opportunities if people understand who you are versus just being part of your corporation. It will help you achieve your goals as well, and allows you to seize the moment when something walks in front of you. I've talked to thousands and thousands and thousands of reinventors, and what they say to me is, you have to be ready for when that reinvention opportunity opens the door in front of you. If you're not prepared, if you don't know who you are, if you don't know what you want, you will not see that opportunity. And it expands your options. And the millennials really know how to do this. It's gotten to the point where they are only their personal brands, and that's probably why some of us at my age have trouble employing them. But we have to come somewhere in between with that and understand that we all need that too. Just as an example of where I began, I always knew I loved clothes. I was a writer. I started out at Women's Wear Daily, then went over to the Daily News. I never wanted to be in magazines. I thought they were too slow and boring. Then I went to Harper's Bazaar, and I would write like a journalist. I would write 5 articles an issue. People thought I was crazy. I didn't fit in. I never fit in anywhere I went. I was always fighting the box. People would tell me, oh, you're just a fashion writer. You can't write anything else. And this was one of the big fights that I had all the time, was this sort of brains and beauty kind of thing, which was, if you're interested in fashion or beauty, you obviously are too stupid to do anything else, right? And this was very pervasive in magazines, very pervasive in fashion. I went to Vogue, and you'll see down there the hilarious part. There were separate elevators for the fashion people and the feature people. The feature people did not want to walk down the hallways where the fashion people were. I kid you not. This is all my old stories. Anyway, and the hilarious part is I wanted to hang out with both people, because I am both a fashion person and a feature person. And so I was told I was an oddball for Vogue. I was there for 9 years. The HR person used to come up to me all the time and bring the new hires up and say to me, I want you to meet with her because she's the daughter of the head of the Metropolitan Museum, and you're the only normal person here. In most careers, that's good. When you're working at a place like this, that's the end of your career. When they said it 3 times, I knew I had to leave. I went to Glamour as their beauty director. That's where I actually met people who were like me and were more interested in many different things. Then I went off to be the editor-in-chief of YM, which was a teen book. We were the first ones to put Willie on the cover, bestseller ever. Thousands and thousands and thousands. What did you do? I had needlepoint framed things coming to him. It was right after his mother was killed. And it was, Dear William, I'm the one. And they filled up a whole room. And we called Buckingham Palace to see if we could ship the stuff to them. It was like all these American girls, they loved you. And no one had put him on the cover. It was my bestseller. Then I went to Redbook, redid Redbook. That was Meg Ryan when she was looking rocking. Then I went over to Mary Claire. I was a pathetic francophile. I grew up learning French as a kid. I was dying to work in France. When I left college, I went to Elle in Paris and said, please hire me. And they were like, you crazy Americans, we don't hire Americans. That was it. So I went to Women's Wear Daily. When I got this job, I spoke fluent French, but was told not to use it. Do you think that's a sign? That's a sign. I still own the top best newsstand sellers of all time, which was at the time the thing that you were judged on. But there was always a dynamic between the French and the Americans. The Americans wanted newsstand sale. The French wanted to compete with Vogue and didn't want to spend any money to compete with Vogue. It was really fun. The moment I knew I was doomed was when the two first questions my French boss asked, because it was a 50-50 partnership between the two. The French boss took me to lunch after I took the job, and she looks at me and she says, so, is your boss honest? And I was like, and I thought, what am I going to say, right? I was a doobie. I didn't know. I was like, of course she's honest. Maybe not so much. And then the second thing, she came to me afterwards with a phone call from France. And, I get on the phone. My assistant says, it's Eveline. She wants to talk to you. And she says, my neighbor's dog is pooping in my yard, and I need an automatic pooper scooper. And I'm like, don't worry, I'm on it, I'm going to find it. So I found her one at Hemmeke Schlemmer. What I should have known is this was not going to go too well. So what I discovered is that the devil does not wear Prada. She wears Dior. It did not end well. Let's say I had a nice little vacation after 4.5 years. I was able to go home, reconnect with my daughter. It was great. But while I was there, what I was able to do was connect with women's issues, which was really my thing. When I was at Vogue, basically everybody was very content with getting a great haircut, getting discounts on clothes, and having doors open wherever you went when you said you were from Vogue. You could get a restaurant, reservation, whatever. And I would come home and say, is that all there is? It didn't sit well with me. It was great and wonderful. And some of the people I worked with are still there. They never left. It's a very hard, that's leaving Cartier, walking away from a Cartier life. I always had a sense that there was something else for me. I didn't know what it was. Women's issues have been key to my heart. When I got to Mary Claire, I was able to do all this stuff. This is the run around the pyramids with Komen. I went to do that. That was the time they opened up the Middle East to talking about breast cancer. At that time, I interviewed these women. I'm a journalist, so I went and interviewed them. At this point, women were still told if you got breast cancer, you had a curse on you and you had to hide it from your family because then your children would never get married or your husband would kick you out of the family. It was amazing, and what was really amazing was all the young boys who decided to run with their moms on this trip because they wanted to stand up for their moms who'd been kicked out of their families. So very, very interesting. I covered the tsunami in 2004 in Asia, and that's when I started becoming a retailer. We always sold little items from different charities on the pages of Mary Claire, and I took that up to, I actually, over 4.5 years, sold $1 million worth of merchandise. This one was, having Gwen Stefani do a great T-shirt on the cover for the tsunami victims. We raised $147,000. It was amazing. Took Drew Barrymore to Africa to work with the World Food Program, and I created a moment of talk in Congress about domestic violence. The idea was instead of a moment of silence. And then I got to more. I took 1.5 years off after, thought I was done with magazines. Anyway, my daughter got so sick of me being around, and hanging out with her. She was going to junior high, and she finally said to me, and I said, so what are we doing this weekend? Who's coming? Blah, blah. And she goes, Mom, you need to get a job. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm being kicked out of this nest here. So I went to Moore, and I was looking around for a cool, really interesting woman who was not a celebrity. Everybody was hooked on celebrities. I wanted to do something else. And Mrs. Obama appeared on the scene. This is my first year there. And I wanted somebody who was a little more interesting. We made a deal. We would shoot her. We would see if her husband got nominated. If he did, we would put her on the cover. If not, she would go inside. She got on the cover that was her first cover, national cover ever. Anna tried to knock me off it as I was going through it. We had already had it set. And I have to say, unlike a lot of Hollywood people, the Obama group came back to us and said, Vogue would like to jump in first. And I said, and they stood by it. And we got the cover before Anna did, which was really very interesting. So that was an interesting moment. Most people would cave and not do that. So over the years, met amazing people, did crazy things in publishing. But I did 8 years at Moore, which was really interesting. But the highlight of my career was coming back to Mrs. Obama. We sold her 2 more times. Then I finally came to a moment where I wanted to do something crazy with her. I threw out this nuts idea, which was, let's have her guest edit the magazine, of course knowing she's going to say no. Her people said yes. It was a history-making moment. That's not why we did it. It was not until we were 3 months into it that we realized it was actually a history-making moment. I followed her to Cambodia and Japan to help her launch Let Girls Learn. I was the White House pool reporter in Cambodia. The whole thing was completely crazy, wonderful, nuts. We did the Reinvention convention for 8 years. Reinvention was core to what Moore is, or was, may it rest in peace. And we just did so many stories about reinventing, and that it sort of infused my life. So I knew that when I had 5 bosses and 4 publishing partners in 8 years, this was not a good sign. So I did start preparing in my back pocket. I said, what's wrong with this picture? And publishers across town were being laid off 400 at a time. So how do you prepare for your own reinvention? You start building your personal brand. And today you have the opportunity to do that. Really, social media is an incredible thing that you can use for yourself. We also wrote this great piece, which I'll post for you. As I said, they took down all the content at more.com and they made it into a teen site. You can buy your mini jean skirt. You can no longer read the article by the president about why he loves women, the women who influenced him. Not this president, Obama. And this piece I found on one of our designers' sites, because of course everybody had linked to the Moore site, that's all gone, but it's a great piece that everybody loved about reinventing yourself, and it goes through all your personal branding issues and how to do it. So I began working on my social media, and these are things that you can do. You just take it up very slowly, you focus. I started posting 3 times a day, and you pick 1 or 2. You don't have to be everything to everybody. I picked Facebook and Twitter. That was it. I don't do Pinterest. I don't do anything else. And took my Facebook from 500 to 9,000 over 3 years. And I hooked it to my Twitter, which you can do. So you write them short for like Twitter, and they go out to Facebook. I also took a media boot camp. A lot of you have access to local colleges or high schools that have little boot camps so you can learn how to do social media. And I became an influencer on LinkedIn, which really definitely helped get it out there. When I write for LinkedIn now, I can get 300,000 people to read an article, which is great. And I respond to as many of the postings as I can and comments as I can. And then our July-August issue was a history-making issue. Now, I was preparing for my demise while I was in a corporate situation, just because I had seen it happen so many times to so many people. So these things are going on simultaneously. We're making history. We did the Moore Impact Awards. That issue went around the world. It was 8.5 billion impressions around the world because it was rolled out in 4 parts. The most important part to me was Mrs. Obama's mother took it upstairs, read it, and came down and said she loved it. Then we heard the West Wing loved it. That never happens. Somebody's always unhappy, right? Then I brought her to the MPA, which was amazing, and we brought Julianne Moore and Lena Dunham, and we talked about media with purpose, and it was the best thing that ever happened. And 3 weeks later, they closed the magazine. So the readers were furious, and they came over my social media, and they said, this is outrageous. I took all the pictures they were posting about why is more dying, and it was really an advertiser issue, and we never fit with the company. That was the main issue. And so I took that, and I created what's called Covey Club. Covey is a small group of birds, usually pigeons or partridges, that flock together. I wanted the idea of small, so it's the opposite of these large things that are going on where you feel disconnected and you don't feel like you really get anything personal. And I began working on, this is about a year ago, preparing this. And so we're going to launch beta in June. It's an online-offline community. And this is the reader response to Covey Club, what they said as I went out there. I polled 628 of my readers, a 54-question survey. They took it all the way to the end. And so in June, so you can sign up at coveyclub.com. And in June, we're gonna launch a newsletter out there, and I'll get a little bit of feedback, and then we'll figure out exactly what it is. It's going to be small events around the country, and some that are brand supported as well. And then here's how you can build your own brand, which is create a mission statement. That's just a few sentences for what you stand for. Create your own personal board of directors. We talk about this a lot. Bringing in friends from when you were much younger to pick up threads that you might have lost. Maybe you were a tap dancer. Maybe you did things that you forgot that you loved, that you let go of. Rev up your social media, as I said. Take a course. Get out of the office, mix it up. Even if you're so busy, protect yourself by always networking. I used to say to my people who worked for me, what are you doing here every lunch? You need to be out at least 3 days a week. And it doesn't matter if it's going to lead to anything. It needs to be you getting out there. I will put up the more article for you. And also, if you need help, hire a coach. There are plenty of coaches out there who know how to get you started. So anyway, thank you so much, and thank you all for having me here. You're such an amazing group of people.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this episode, be sure to visit our podcast channel page at www.wirlc.com/podcast for show notes. Women in Retail Talks is available on iTunes and Stitcher, but be sure to subscribe to our podcast channel page as well. Lastly, don't forget to connect with us on social, on Twitter and Instagram at WIR Leadership. Until next time, this has been Women in Retail Talks.